a lot of cutting.
Yeah.
That's why we have the different camera angles, so it's a little smoother. But we're going to open this one up by going ahead and asking everybody to like, share, subscribe. Main thing is share it with a buddy. So help us get the word out about the podcast. And we are fortunate to have two really good guys on tonight. They're gonna tell us all their little secrets on how they have success on public land and just success in general.
Yeah.
We have Mr. Dustin King and Noah Studstill, and it's good to meet you guys tonight. They are hard earned. First question I have for you: you said there's a story about how you guys hooked up together, how you met up.
Yeah.
So tell us that. How'd y'all meet?
I've always wondered that too.
So I moved up here about probably 2012. I lived in Florida my whole life, around Tampa. Didn't get to do a whole lot of hunting there. Moved up here 2012, worked on a deer farm over in Ott, and just kind of, I always wanted to hunt. I hunted some with my dad when I went up to his house, and got into hunting. Didn't really know what I was doing. Was just kind of learning, finding my way, and was hunting a piece of property over in Red Level, and somehow me and Dustin got hooked up. And, I seen some of his videos, and it kind of interested me in to start filming and all. Started talking to him about it, and long story short, he found that lease in Brundage that we ended up getting in, and he's like, man, I think it's a good piece of property. He sent me a pin, and I was like, man, it looks great. I want in if I can. So that's kind of where we started, hunting, really, managing that lease and all together.
There's a deer farm in Ott?
There was.
Used to be.
Southern Grace Whitetails.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
It if I'm not wrong, it was ran by
John Lanier.
Lanier, yeah. Mm-hmm. So you worked on a deer farm. That opens up all kinds of different questions.
For real.
So I'm assuming you learned a lot about deer in that period of time, or at that time were you not into the hunting yet? So you just kind of worked there and didn't pay attention.
It had a good hunting opportunity. During the wintertime we would feed in the morning, then we'd just go hunt all day. So I hunted every day of the year, really. But I didn't really know what I was doing, so I was kind of just wandering, really.
Right.
Was there anything that you learned during that time working there that has carried over? That maybe most people don't
really
know?
Just, the deer at the farm would feed, about the same time as they would, in the wild. It's kind of still based on moon phases and temperature, and, pressure's not real high. They're just going to be kind of laying around all day. But, when you get a good cold snap and high pressure and all, they'll be up feeding,
They're more active.
Yeah.
And that, yeah. That's awesome. Pretty cool, man.
So, we would kind of see at the farm, the deer are up moving around this morning, let's go get in the woods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
So how long has hard earned been a thing?
What's this, year 3?
Yeah, year 3.
Y'all got a lot of good stuff on YouTube.
I wouldn't say a lot.
Well, I binged it. I binged it one night when I was up.
Or good.
Doing something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I wasn't killing deer, so I had to watch somebody that was.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But all right, so you guys hunt a lot of public land. I really want to pick your brain and see how you do that. I guess the first step is probably e-scouting it.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your process when you are e-scouting? What are you looking for? What are some things that stands out to you that makes you want to hunt? And I guess, too, I don't want to throw too many questions out there at one time, but are you looking for just deer or mature bucks or both?
Really, I do. This is probably where we're different in some ways, but, we're alike in a lot of the same ways. But I use a lot of different maps. I may use just your normal Apple Maps because it shows a good updated version of what you're looking at. Google Earth and Onyx, really it seemed like they step up every year, and the recent imagery now is pretty much, you can tell they clear cut it last week. So,
right.
Onyx really shows a lot, and scouting's come a long way where you really don't even have to be there to know what it looks like. But I use an app called Cow Topo, and it's pretty much just strictly topo maps, and I'll try and find, those thermal hubs and
travel
kinda,
corridors.
Yeah.
So
Pinch points and stuff.
Right,
yeah.
right.
So thermal hubs, what do you mean by that? I
Just
hear
kinda-
different definitions for it. So
Like where you get I've learned, you want to look for thick, but it's not always thick. But just where a bunch of really ridge systems kind of just dump down into this bowl,
okay,
and you catch a good edge with good bedding, really doesn't north, south, whatever. And I kind of found a spot, just proved my theory this year of I'm always trying to scout different, but found a little thermal hub at a club I was in, and I knew there was a good buck in there. It was a big 11 point, and I put my camera maybe 10 yards off the edge, just thick, short pines, but I was right in the middle of this bowl, and I got him first night. So,
Really?
Did you say you're in the middle of it?
Yeah, I was right in the middle of that bowl, probably 10 yards off of that hard edge, and he showed up first night just on the
Really?
trail.
So wind in those bowls, is it predictable at all?
It's pretty much. That's why I feel like they're there, because in the afternoon you just feel it pulling from every which way.
So how do you hunt
Yeah.
that? Do you just take a chance, roll the dice on it, or
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I like it.
Get in there with them.
Yeah,
See what you can
really.
do. Yeah.
I like it. Well, you said that's where you guys are different. So
Yeah, I'll use Apple Maps, but he uses mini maps, and it's kind of funny because the other day that deer I was talking about that I posted, he called me when he was heading down there, and he was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I'm off such and such road. I just had a feeling about this spot." Well, he starts busting out laughing and sends me a pin that he dropped, and that's where he was heading. And we do it it's so funny, man. I mean, multiple times.
Right.
But to me, that just it shows we bounce ideas off each other, and
Right.
we can work together on trying to find what we're looking for.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when y'all hunt the public land and all that, you say you e-scout a lot, which we do a little bit of e-scouting ourselves.
it's fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
like that, yeah.
enjoy
What's-
e-scouting. Yeah.
What's crazy to me is how you can look at it for a week straight and think that you have everything covered, and then come back in a couple of days and something new just pops out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it like that with you too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the times I find myself going to a spot that I've e-scouted, and I see deer, and I see the movement of the deer, and I go back and I think, why are they doing that? What have I missed? And I go back, and sure enough, like you said, I find something new. Every time I look at that, I find something new that the deer are telling me there's something there, and I missed it the first time I scouted it, or whatever it may be,
So when you are e-scouting, I know you said bowls. Is there anything else? Are you strictly looking for bowls, or is there anything else that you're looking for?
I've learned the thicker the better. I mean, if you can get in the thick, you probably got a good shot at seeing a buck at least.
I think that's what deters a lot of people from going to public land is, like you said earlier, you e-scouted that property and you put your camera in that bowl and then you got him the first night. A lot of the times people spend a lot of time at public land with no luck at all finding mature deer or a deer in general. You can always put up somewhere where there's some sign and get a doe or two.
Yeah.
But that deters a lot of people from hunting public land because they just don't. I'm not saying that they don't know what they're doing, but they on public land you have to do a lot of homework, in my opinion, to find exactly where that deer's at. Like me and you talked about earlier, like the old way of hunting without the cameras.
Yeah.
You kind of have to, even though we have cameras these days, you kind of have to intermingle both of them together when you're hunting public land because there's no baiting, you have to put your skills to the
Not supposed
test
to be.
and then see what you got by putting your skills to the test on your camera, see what you get, which is really cool to do. But I think that deters a lot of people. But it also, in my opinion, makes a deer more of a trophy when you kill it on public land, knowing that you did it without any kind of, just by reading sign, by doing your homework, and it makes that trophy even sweeter than going out on 1,000 acres or like myself, 200 acres on the river and shooting a big buck. Now, that's sweet, but in my opinion, and y'all may be different, on public land, if I shoot a 6-point or if I shoot a smaller deer that I may not take on a farm that I hunt that's private property. In my opinion, I take a lot more pride sometimes in the deer that I shoot that may not be as big as what I killed on private land, just because of the work that goes into that public land hunting.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, that deters a lot of people from going, especially if they have property that they can hunt. I catch myself a lot of the times not wanting to go to public property because I have private property to hunt. And I think, well, why would I put myself through that if I can hunt the private property? But like I said, I think a lot of people feel that way. You know, I'm not going to go to public just because of all the stuff you have to put into it.
Yeah.
But
Well, all right, so I can 20 question you guys because next year I'm wanting to really get in on public land. And I think one of the reasons is here in the South, I'm just going to go ahead and say, I feel like you have to bait if you're on private property because you can put yourself at a disadvantage because your neighbors are definitely doing it.
Yeah.
So what's your take on that? I
Bait.
can tell you're thinking something. So what's your think?
Bait for does, man. I hate it. We got the evidence. I've got a folder on my MacBook. You will get more daylight activity or more activity period on trails of bucks at scrapes trails than you will at that feeder.
yeah. So, which brings me to
Let me
Go
elaborate.
ahead.
One other thing, not all deer are equal.
Yeah.
Now, there's exceptions. When he shot Tyson, I said, this is unusual. I've never seen a deer do this, and he can tell you I said
yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, we got to capitalize while we can.
right.
He was moving in on bait.
Yes.
Okay.
But he was also smart enough to stand there, 20, 30 minutes?
About 40, 45.
Really.
I watched this video. That was insane.
I did. Yeah, I watched that.
How did you keep it together that long? I would have been shaking like a leaf.
I just, I picked out a pine tree and I just stared at it till I heard him commit.
He's
Did he
not
ever know
there.
you were
He's
there?
not there.
Yeah. See that? I almost thought he winded me a couple times, because we were hunting just barely off wind. I mean, the slightest swirl and he'd have winded either one of us,
Yeah.
But it was hitting me in the face and he was just right here. So, it was just blowing right past him.
Yeah.
But it just,
I commend you for being able to wait that long too for a good shot.
Buddy, I would have had
It
to
was
close my eyes
tough.
and tell myself he's not really big. He's.
I know
Man,
me. I would have
yeah.
tried to force something that wasn't there.
I would have. Yeah. That's crazy though. So he stood outside for 40 something minutes.
it was
outside of your.
him and it was a little, what was it, 3-point or
Yeah.
4-point? He had a little buck that, they were always together.
Mm-hmm.
And they just sat there, meandering around in the oaks behind me.
Yeah.
But, within 30 or 40 yards,
Right.
I just heard them walking around.
Right. Now I have heard of people saying that a mature deer will not necessarily spook from a bait pile, but they know that's not natural.
Yeah.
So they do act a little weary, which my dad is big on, if you bait, catch them going to the bait. Don't catch them over the bait because they're always on. They're always on edge when they're eating or they're on that bait.
Yeah.
So you guys feel the same way about
Absolutely.
that? Yeah.
What time of year was it when you killed?
November
7th.
7th.
November 7th?
7th hunt for the deer, November 7th.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really.
Well, like I said, I could 20 question you because I want to hunt public land next year, and I'm going to really do some scouting and put some boots on the ground. And anyway, mainly because of the private land thing, everybody's baiting, and I just feel like maybe I'm hoping that I could catch deer moving more naturally on public land.
Yeah.
So here's my next question for you. Throughout the year, throughout the season, what are you looking for as far as deer sign? I would assume early season you're hunting food.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll try to cover a lot of areas like throughout the summer, right? And I'll try to pinpoint, all right, maybe this white oak could be dropping. Well, I'll see a bunch of rubs, and this is a prime example of knowing an area by being able to age sign. So I seen a bunch of rubs along a riverbank, and I was like, all right, this is going to be, according to those rubs, just a rut spot, not early season whip rubs or none of that junk. So I actually told Justin about it, and I was like, look, this will be a good spot during rut. Well, he went and stuck a camera there, and this proved my point. The entire season until rut, that's when bucks started showing up. And he was like, how did you know? and we ain't had this phone conversation yet, just in text, but being able to read that kind of stuff, because there's no feed trees in there, nothing. To me, deer are going to travel that water path.
Right.
So I always want to be around that. And the feed trees, to me, there's no specific tree except for this year he found the miracle tree.
Yeah.
That I ain't never seen nothing like that on pictures. But if you're in a general area where trees are dropping, try to be in that travel area.
Yeah.
How long did that last, the feed tree?
About 2 weeks, probably.
So that's one of those things that you got to have. You got to constantly be scouting.
Oh, yeah.
And find that. So that's another thing that I've wondered, because I've heard people say so many times that if you're not in the acorns, you're out of the game. And I know in a lot of the areas that I hunt, and you too, I think, as we've talked about this,
Yep.
you hear about feed trees, and I'm thinking, how do you find that one feed tree when there's so many oak trees in the area?
I've never found one. He, like I said, found the miracle tree this year and was sending me, 8, 9 o'clock daylight bucks just grazing through, eating under it.
Really?
I mean, for 2 weeks straight, and I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it was honestly lucky. I mean, because there was probably 3 or 4 white oaks just to the right of it, and there was probably 100 acres of short pines, 20 yards from both of these trees. And I'd seen a couple green white oaks on the ground, so I put my camera on it. I was like, it's going to make, and I'm going to be ready when it does. Well, I didn't get any deer.
Yeah.
But I'd walked through the water oak acorns on the ground, and I, just didn't put my camera that way. So I went in a week later and moved my camera, literally just faced it toward the water oak, and just bucks.
Everywhere.
So they were in there already, but my camera was just facing the wrong way.
Yeah.
Wow. So they were preferring water oaks.
Just because they were ready,
Gotcha.
available.
Right.
But, those bucks daylighted. It was 11 out of 12 days.
Yeah.
And the one day they didn't is when I was there, So.
Naturally.
We talked about that too, the different kind of oak trees and stuff. I've bow hunted since I was younger, and I bow hunted with my dad, and he kind of taught me the ropes and stuff like that. Now, he did like to get under water oaks. He liked to get under certain kind of oak trees, which goes back to how do you find that one? Because like you said, when we talked about this and we were scouting earlier this year, just about everywhere we went down that road we were going down, there were small acorns just scattered all down the road. Well, how do you know that those are the trees that they're going to, when you've got several of them? So I guess you could say that maybe, I don't know, maybe sometimes they do prefer a different kind of oak. I don't know. I mean, I've never done a study on that or researched that or anything like that. If they do, prefer water oak or whatever it may be, I don't know. I don't know what that answer is, but.
You ever tasted them?
Yeah, they're bitter.
I told him earlier in the year, I was pretty much on Cal Topo, and I was looking for the terrain features, ignoring the trees completely. I was trying to find, those hubs and all by good bedding. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much, I would find, I'd eliminate a lot of areas, and that feed tree was in a hub, where all these ridges dump down, and it just happened to have good bedding right next to it. Mm-hmm. So I was like, it sets up, buck has all the advantage, and ended up being 3 shooter bucks in there. I mean, just.
Yeah.
But I just try and find terrain features, and then I try and find the food within the terrain feature. It kind of helps eliminate a lot of the guesswork, just walking around looking at trees.
Right.
So early season food. Is there other food sources besides acorns?
You'll be surprised at what they'll eat.
Dude, it's crazy. If it's green, they'll probably eat it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I watched a podcast at one time, and I believe it was from Mississippi State Deer Lab. They said that a deer will, I think they were talking about how feeding deer and all that stuff goes about, and what deer like and what they don't like and all that stuff. But they said that a deer's body will tell them what it needs in certain times of the year, so they will graze on just about anything. And certain plants have different, things that the needs, that the deer's body needs, and they know that. I think what they were talking about is, certain food plots and certain people's property seem to bring bigger deer and bring more deer and stuff like that. But they said that's not necessarily true. You just may not be where the deer are, because the deer browse on just about anything, according to what their body wants, you know. So that was pretty cool. Them guys,
Seen them eat briars.
Mm-hmm. Man, it's crazy.
So as the year goes on, and the deer start, or bucks, I guess, start shifting their focus away from food and into other things, how does that change what you look for in the woods?
You go first.
Yeah, I mean, transitioning from, you know, which I didn't this year. I kind of like abandoned my cameras this year because I had a lot of fun just, you know, hunting, really.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like the cameras can be misleading, and I kind of just left them alone and really just hunted, which was humbling because I didn't really have a lot of success. But
Yeah.
but I try and get where I think the bucks are going to start cruising, trying to catch these first does coming in. So a lot of that, you know, is right on that hard edge, maybe from hardwood bottom right up next to pines. You know, you start seeing scrapes pop up, maybe a logging road next to it or something. But clear cuts too, you know, 1 or 2 year old clear cuts. I mean, that's
Those
prime,
are awesome.
prime stuff.
Yeah. And I second that. And something we look at too is more often than not, and we heard this, we just didn't come up with this. I mean, we ain't doing anything groundbreaking here tonight. You know, this is experiences and stuff we've heard.
Trial and error.
Yeah. So if you look at your topo lines and there's your thicker line, that's your flatter ground. And if you go to that thick line, you'll generally see more travel area right there. And I threw out a lace of cameras this year. I done got to where I took it off because my Onyx is so compiled with all these icons. I don't want lines on there too. You know what I mean? Well, I actually laced out some cameras on a oak knoll that we'll call it, and a swamp just wraps around it. Well, I sent him all the cameras, and he called and he was like, you know, it follows the contour of the land. Well, I was like, I don't even know. I threw my lines back on there, and sure enough, that's where all the travel is.
Really?
And I just felt it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But all 4 cameras within a 300-yard area had every buck on it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's insane.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. I feel like after we do this podcast, I'm going to listen to it a few times and actually digest everything they're
Make
saying.
some notes.
Oh, yeah. You may see me in your hunting spot. We may scout the same
Wait
spot.
a minute. Wait a minute. We didn't bring y'all here for that.
You're going to have to get there early.
I won't tell him. Nah, I'm kidding. So you mentioned trail cameras. I know you said that you kind of didn't utilize them as much this year, but how do you usually use those? Are they a major part of?
Yeah, I mean,
finding
early
deer?
season, you know, of course you like to find the food, but, you know, we go back to historical places, you know, places we got history with. We know there's bucks, and really just a matter of putting our cameras on the, you know, oaks or whatever's in that area, leave it on there probably till you know the oaks are, you know, pretty much gone, and then really just shift your cameras straight into pre-rut. I mean, I don't like just bouncing cameras around all year. I like to leave it, you know, because a lot of times it's on trails that they're going to use
Eventually.
pretty much, if
So-
not all year.
So how do you pick out a trail? Because what do you look for in a trail before you're going to hang a camera up? Because I know in some of the spots that I have, there's trails going everywhere. So what do you look for to hang that camera there?
I've got away from the heavy trails because that's
Usually does.
usually those. Your bucks, it's hard to describe a buck trail, which this time of year, which I was telling him I hung a camera the other day, and you know, you could see all the doe trails coming out of the swamp, and there was just a faint trail, you know, on the upper third of a hill, and I just felt like it was a good buck trail. There was a couple rubs on it, and ended up getting a buck on it within 24 hours.
Yeah.
But just tons of does coming up the trail, I thought, and then a buck cutting on the other trail, you know, that faint, dim trail.
Mm-hmm.
And I it's hard. Like, to me, you get lucky on a buck trail. I had 3 cameras, 90, 60, 30 yards apart from each other. I was only getting bucks, and one of them was on a feeder, only at the bottom to where the scent was going down the hill. They was using that trail only.
Mm-hmm.
So you almost like trial and error. You have to get lucky or move your cameras until you see that movement on those trails.
Right. that kind of goes back to earlier this year when we were scouting down there in Brantley. Taylor kind of had the same situation take place where we went down there, we saw a lot of sign. He put a camera up where we saw the sign, and the deer he was getting just kind of vanished. They just quit coming. And Taylor said, he called me one day and he said, I think I'm going to move that camera.
I never
go
really
back
got
down
him.
there. Yeah.
I never really got them on camera.
Never really started coming in very good. A few does.
I mean, the
from here and there.
coons. We put some bait out just to see what's was in the area, and coons got it for anything.
Right.
But there was one picture that I had of deer running in front of the camera, does and bucks. Something spooked them and pushed them out, and I thought they're there somewhere.
Right.
But yeah, you can go.
And Taylor, he called me. He said, "I'm gonna go down there and I'm gonna scout a little bit. And I'm gonna move that camera just because there's no action in front of it." He literally moved that camera 100 yards from where it sat, and it was just buck after buck after buck, doe after doe, just deer like crazy.
Yeah.
Like a travel corridor, and they just going through it all times of the day. But 100 yards.
Too, so that they're holding pretty tight,
right,
in areas, but yeah, 100 yards.
100 yards made the difference. So I can believe what you're saying, because just that little bit of movement or whatever, they can be just on the other side there, or just right down from your camera, and you just never getting pictures of them. Yeah. But that was kind of crazy to me.
It's eye-opening.
Yeah, it is. It's like, man, you'd have never known. And there was 3 or 4 shooter bucks, I think, or 2 or 3 or 3 maybe.
2 or 3.
Yeah. In that little group that was coming by. But like I said, that 100 yards made the difference. We never got a picture of them other than running that day. That's how we even knew that there was deer in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that 100 yards made the difference. That was crazy. That was eye-opening, like you said.
How many cameras do y'all run?
I think I've got 18.
18?
Yeah.
18.
Are they cell cameras or?
No, 8 cell cameras. And the rest are SD
I
cameras.
think I got 6 cell cameras and about 8 regular cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Do you always like to do that? Or did you just now start doing that, or have you always put them in, like a travel corridor? If you find something that they travel down, put them along the way to try to find out where he's coming from or where he's traveling to, or
along the way. Yeah. I've always done that.
Okay. I've thought about doing that. Right now I don't, but I have thought about, because I see a lot of people doing that, not just y'all's videos, but several other people's videos where they'll set cameras up, and I've seen some guys go as crazy as they'll set them up for 500 to 600 yards down a wood line. And they'll know, he's coming here at 4:40 in the morning. He's here at 8:20 in the morning. He's here at 10:20 in the morning. He's here at whatever.
Yeah.
And that's I'd like to try to do that maybe this next year and do like you did, kind of scout the sign and try to find out where he's coming. Because if I would have done that, Houdini, the one that Talon killed not too long ago, my brother, he's supposed to be here tonight, but he's sick, couldn't join us. But we could have killed him, I think, a lot sooner than Talon killed him, because we had that deer pattern to a certain extent. Yeah. He would be in one field in the morning, and then he'd be in the other in the afternoon, and then he'd do the same thing. But every now and then he'd change it up. But if we knew where that deer was coming from out of the woods, we would have got down in there with him and killed that deer a lot sooner and within daylight hours if we would have taken that,
aggressive approach.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to share like a cool experience I had, though, up at the lease we had. I started feeding in this little, it was just like a little hill in this swamp bottom. And I had my camera on it, wasn't really getting many bucks, but, historically the bucks come through there. They had a, community scrape they hit all year. So I had my Spartan facing the feed, and I put a wild game camera on the same tree facing the other way. And I had all kind of does, coming there. Well, when I checked it after season, there was all kind of bucks on it. Just literally walk right behind the camera.
Really?
Yeah,
Never even knew they were there. Never
avoiding it.
Yeah.
Really?
I never hunted it because I didn't think, anything was coming through, and they was.
So that's all. That's cool, because it makes me think of a couple years ago. I think I told you about this. I was running a feeder at a area, one of the spots that I was hunting, and just because everybody else ran feeders, so I thought it must be okay. Didn't really think anything about it, but I just wasn't getting anything except does and it was like the same 2 does every night. And I took the feeder out because I thought nothing's coming to this spot. But for whatever reason, I took the feeder out but left the camera. I forget why I did that. No idea, actually. But maybe I just dumped the corn out of the feeder and just see if something else would come to it. But like 2 days after that feeder being gone, bucks started showing up in there and traveling through. And I guess that bell sound was scaring them, and they didn't want no part of that.
I've never liked a spin feeder. Never.
I don't anymore.
I've never used one, so I don't know what it.
Yeah, I hadn't either.
But I've heard of people doing that. You know, you hear all the time that cameras don't get everything that's happening on the property.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard of people running the trail cameras like you did just then, one on each side, and deer skirting it.
It was pretty eye-opening, for sure.
Yeah. I think we talked about that a little bit in our last podcast when me and Talon was adamant about, even though you run cameras, if the sign is in there, don't just trust your camera. Get in there and hunt them because they could be, like you said, you know, to be honest with you, if I would have just hunted cameras this past year, I can't say that we would have killed either of the bucks that we killed, me and my brother. I can't say that we would have killed them because Houdini, a lot of the times matter of fact, all year long, we never got a picture of him, but we knew he was there. The sign was there. We got one picture of him before season come in, and then we started getting pictures of him cruising for does in January. Now, we didn't move a camera around and finally started getting him, but if we would have just hunted that, the day that Talon killed that deer, he would have never been on camera that day. He was actually coming through, and we never got pictures of him the day Talon killed it, and the day I killed Kicker, we never got pictures of him on camera.
So that's kind of where me and you are different. You are a lot more willing to go hunt a spot even if you don't have a daytime picture of a buck. So like Kicker, for example, you know, he was showing up mainly in the middle of the night. He started getting closer to daylight.
Right.
Which I guess maybe
the day before I shot him, he come up at about 6 o'clock that afternoon.
Okay.
So he was gradually getting closer to
and then
to
you had
daylight.
that cold front come in,
right?
And you thought he'd be a little earlier. Okay.
Yeah.
Whereas me, like, if I have a deer on camera that's only in the middle of the night, I don't have a lot of confidence in it. In my mind, I'm thinking he could be 2 miles away, and I don't have a lot of confidence going into that hunt. What are your thoughts on that? Go.
Yep.
I'm in the minority here.
I would lean more towards what you do, though. You know, if it's middle of the night, I feel like he's living kind of far away. But it depended how big your property was. You know, if he was coming at midnight, I'd be trying to find where he's moving
right
before dark. But it's a double-edged sword, too, though, because, you know, you don't want to pressure, especially elite. Like, we didn't hardly ever hunt that place first year we had it. But, you know, results of that, he shot a deer, you know, walking in with his bow, you know, just bedded on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really?
Tell that story. Tell that story.
So, parked the truck. We never drove in there at all. I told him I didn't want us driving in unless we were recovering or feeding, right? So the feeders are at the front of this 160, therefore to attract the deer from the swamp, 30 acres of swamp, up into the more huntable parts. So I parked the truck, walking through. I'm talking about film gear, saddle equipment and all. And it's kind of windy, but a cold front was coming. It was getting colder as I'm taking each step. Mm-hmm. And dude, like these pines are what, 12-year-old pines?
Maybe not even.
All right. It was a bunch of briar thickets. Yeah. And I mean, anyway, he comes up like an elevator, just brought him up. And as he's coming up, I'm going down. Yeah. I'm like, what is going on? Yeah, so natural instinct is just for me to squat down.
Yeah.
Well, he's facing away, and I can see pretty much the back of his head, and I can tell his rack's looking, you know, obviously away. I'm like, that's a big deer.
Yeah.
So I take my backpack off, get my bow, knock an arrow. I'm like, there ain't no way this is fixing to happen, you know? So he's just like, I guess he was trying to wind.
Yeah.
Is the only thing I think, but he's just looking. I see his main beams doing this. So I draw back, and which was very difficult on my knees, but I was able to stand up, and I started taking a few steps, and I sent it through the briars, man.
Yeah.
Like a Hail Mary, you know? Yeah. And, dude, I call him, and he's like, all right, no, he didn't answer. He texted me, and this is what, 230,
Yeah, I was still at
245.
work.
Yeah. He texted me, so I'm still at work. And I said, call me. I just killed Leo, I think. And he called. He was like, what? I was like, dude, I just shot him walking in. And we couldn't figure out where this deer was bedding.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you, like, I'm talking right off the side of the road. If you treat a place right, to me, you get those kind of results. You know? But I mean, he was piled up 55 yards. Now it was a bad drag because it was straight uphill through some briars. But,
so he was bedded on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I was getting him coming through the gate, and I'd text him, "Where is this joker?" Because we had the place laced up.
Yeah.
You know, like I feel confident in my hunt setups, my camera setups, and I had no idea what this deer was doing. I could not figure it out. He'd be at the back. He'd be at the front. You never knew.
Right.
We hunted the front, you know, pretty much. Well, we hunt the back one time early season.
Yeah, that's right.
But we pretty much agreed, you know, we're going to leave the back alone. We'll hunt the front. You know, we had enough bucks up front to hunt. And, you know, we'll save the back for the rut. You know, get them comfortable, and then, you know, we'll get aggressive when their guard's down, really. So, which we had another huge buck back there. We didn't even know he was living back there all year.
Yeah.
But got one picture of him in velvet, which I ended up seeing him the last day of hunting season at 100 yards, and I just had my bow, you know, so that was pretty cool.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I told him to take the rifle.
So on public land and private land, I think, too, you guys hunting public land, I think sometimes you, in a way, let your guard down a little bit to hunt public land because you know I don't have a food source here. I have to find their food source. So I'm going to do whatever it takes to find them. When I hunt a lot like you guys, you know, y'all have a lease up in Troy, and I've got a lease now. Well, my dad has had a lease for a while down close to P River. And I just started hunting this. We just started hunting this in the past year because we hadn't been able to hunt it until now. We got permission to hunt it and all, but now it's private, so we can go down and kind of set up what we want to set up and all that stuff. Well, now, in my opinion, going down there, you think a lot like you guys. Like, I don't want to mess this up. Or on property that you get permission on, like me and Taylor, a lot of the times we get permission on property, and I go in thinking, okay, I got this place set up like I want it. I don't want to go in. I don't want to bump any deer. I don't want to do nothing like that. But on public land, it kind of pushes you to get in there with them and find where they're at instead of knowing where they're at and not getting in there and catching them before daylight coming through, or just waiting until they come to where you know they're going to come eventually. I think the public land thing gets you to where you have to get in there and get on them and do what you got to do to hunt them and to kill them at a certain hour, you know.
And so with being aggressive, this is what I really want to learn. How, when you're pushing into those areas, how far is too far? How do you know when to stop?
I should stop a long time ago, but
same, really.
So if I'm going in scouting, I see the whole area. I go, and then I'm like, okay, just say ag field butts up to public. All right. I know that I might bump some deer coming through this spot to get to where I want to go, because I want to be 150 yards off that ag field, because I know them deer are going to go feed that afternoon. Well, I'm going to catch them before they get out there at dark. Mm-hmm. So I'll risk bumping deer here in order to go to another travel spot. And this is a mile back there.
Right.
But that's the better setup in my mind early season. Now, late season, I was able to track some bucks. I think it was 0.61 miles from the early season pictures we got of them.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know. I got lucky. It was 0.61 miles straight shot. They went from feeding in the field to Oak Knob, the rut spot, if you will. You know what I mean? I went there, seen some sign. I was like, okay, this is probably where they're going to be at right here toward the end of the season. And sure enough, they was.
Were you telling me there was certain deer that y'all were killed this year? You want to tell a story of?
Well, I owe I killed 2 public bucks. The 6-point.
I watched those videos too, by the way. That was good.
He found that spot, and I went in there the first time, missed him with the bow, and then the second time, got him month and we're roughly a month later.
Right.
But that was actually a spot he had found. And then if I'd have been I had not been in there yet. He was talking about me where on that first video where I missed him at where he was crossing was being on that little point.
Yeah.
But I got in another little point, right? So I'd have been 20 yards chip shot, instead of 53 hitting a limb like I did.
Yeah.
But the other buck I killed, he had a spy point that'd been there, I don't know how long, a minute.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
I was like, dude, I'll go get that camera. He was like, yeah, I'll drop you a pin.
Which was where I missed. Well, I thought it was 8 point, but it was actually 6 point. But I missed him
Last year.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah. So, funny story. I just go to pull his camera / burn a hunt that morning, right? But I got in there. I was like, man, this is, looking good. When daylight comes, I hear some little bit of walking in some sage, and I get looking. I was like, that's a pretty good sized body deer. Well, here comes another one, and dude, I had forgot my fluid head on my tripod at home, so I had all my camera stuff except for that. They start sparring 45 yards. I'm sitting there watching this magical show.
Golly.
And, dude, I'm like, I'm getting a little shaky.
Ain't that how it happens, though?
Oh,
I mean,
dude.
you lose.
I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
He called me after he shot the buck, and I was like, man, it's barely even daylight.
Yeah. They come right to me. One passed right by. There's 2 water holes. One come by, started drinking water. I'm like, if this wind shift, this is over with. And he was the smaller one. He wasn't a bad deer either.
Yeah.
But I wanted that big body joker. I didn't care what was on his head. I just
Yeah.
knew he had a big body.
Right.
Well, here he comes, 27 yards. I done I pre-range everything before I get there, so
Right.
I know, I was like, all right, got him. And end up finding him, seeing the picture. He was like, dude, that is the same buck I missed last year. So how funny is that?
That's
man?
insane, man. That
But historical areas, you
Yeah.
know? I mean,
Right.
right there is where he pretty much missed him, man.
right. Had he grown since last year a little bit?
No.
No, really?
Might have actually went downhill a
Yeah.
little bit.
Really?
I think he was just one of them deer that wasn't meant to be something,
Yeah. Right.
So
yeah.
that kind of makes me want to ask this. With those deer, are you able to form history with deer on public land?
Oh, yeah.
Because, see, I have it in my mind that it's just wrapped up with people and deer
That's
are not
some-
going to last out there.
That's
in public
something,
land.
though, like when we scout, you can tell if it's hunted a pretty good bit, especially if you're walking in the dark. I mean, there's bright eyes everywhere.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot of places that you can go that are overlooked that's not that far off the road. People are like, man, everybody's probably hunting it when actually nobody's hunting it.
Right.
That could hold good bucks.
It's just boots on the ground. You got to put
Like,
the time in to
that
find it.
spot really wasn't that far in there.
No.
I mean, it was less than half a mile.
Yeah.
And a good setup on a 90. Perfect. Fire lane all the way around it.
Yeah, I've noticed I have gotten to where I now get in there. I have tried to force myself because a lot of the times we think, like y'all said, well, it probably gets hunted a lot or it don't get hunted because it's so close to the road. There's so much traffic here. But a lot of the times you'll find some good bucks that's hanging out right there in that spot that you never would have thought that a deer would be.
Yeah.
So I kind of have gotten to where in the past couple years I've gotten to where I kind of force myself to go check areas out that's like that just because even though I'm sitting here like probably a lot of people do, there's no deer in there, but I force myself to go. And a lot of times I have a lot of luck finding good sign and all and seeing deer when I sit in spots like that. Even though there's a lot of traffic going by or, people's looking over it because it don't look like anything's in there.
All right, I only have one more question for y'all. And this one might put you on the spot a little bit. It's supposed to be a fun question. Do you have a random, I'll go with you first, Dustin. Do you have a random, maybe off-the-wall deer hunting tactic that you have used or heard of other hunters using? Something random and off the wall.
Yeah. And it's
I'm
actually
excited about this.
it's actually on video. The buck that I shot after I fed that day, and I drove out like I left, and they were out there eating.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. There's your one right there.
I heard that.
So making them
Absolutely.
think you left, but you really didn't.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'd
I
be
did
better-
something similar with a
I'm
deer.
glad that you say that because I thought this guy was crazy as a loon when he called me one day and told me a story similar to that.
Yeah.
I was thinking,
And-
this guy's a freaking loon.
I'll tell you, like my dad, when we would still hunt over here down the road back when we was younger, he would drop me off and leave, and I'd tell him what all I would see. Well, I mean, a youngin', you didn't know, you just thought you was hunting in the best spot ever, right?
That's right.
Well, that's what it was.
Yeah.
He would hear us drive in. I'd get dropped off. He'd roll out, and I'd be seeing deer left and right.
Yeah. Now, I have heard a lot of hunters they'll drive their ATV or they'll drive their truck in. They'll pour the food out, and then they'll drive their stuff back out, drive their vehicle back out for good reason, because they can hear that and they get used to that truck coming in and that truck leaving. When that truck leaves, about an hour later, you get pictures in front of your camera of deer coming out eating your corn.
Yes, sir.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Hey.
I had a spot this year, too. I could shake the corn, and about 30, 45 minutes later, does would be out there eating.
Yeah.
That's nice.
All
right.
That's domestic. We get we get too deep off into baiting deer.
I'll give you a funny domestic one. I had them trained up with my lawnmower.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. The back of my field, I would drive it back there, dump corn.
Yeah.
And I'd go back home. They would come out. Well, I told Emily one day, I was like, watch this.
Yeah.
So I'd drive back here, dump the corn, I'd come home, park it. We're looking out the back door. Here they come out. Just used to hearing it running,
That's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
What about you, Noah?
So on
He's been over there pondering on this. He ain't really
I can't
crossed.
come
I,
every
I
time.
knew what I was going to say as soon as you said it. But on a certain public land here close to the house, I started hunting it. First time I hunted it was 2 years ago, and it didn't really have a whole lot of traffic, and there's not a whole lot of gun days, But first gun days, I saw the same trucks kind of parked at the same spot, and I just, idea in my head, I'm gonna slip around in the bottom and the back, and because they come in like right at daylight, and I get in an hour and a half before daylight, and I'm just sitting there waiting. Well, when they come in to hunt, they're pushing a lot of deer to me, So I really, they're gonna be hunting food plots, and I'd be far enough away, they're not gonna shoot me or nothing, but I saw a lot of bucks, get pushed to me, just people coming in late,
Yeah.
Just hunting the pressure, using
yeah,
the pressure to
really.
your advantage.
That's good.
Yep.
That's good.
The reason I asked that is I was talking to a guy a couple weeks before deer season came out. But in conversation, talking with this guy, he was telling me about when he was younger and when he was hunting a lot, this old timer had a trick where he would take a stick and put toilet paper on it so that the white was just, whipping in the wind, I guess. And he would do it. I had it in my mind like in an open field, like a food plot or something. And he said that deer would come to the edge of the food plot to check that out. And, he said rarely did he kill a big buck doing it. But it was just something that brought deer to them or to him so that he could get a shot at it. I thought that was really interesting.
I guess just to check that out. Curious.
Curious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we need to have an old timer on. Maybe I shouldn't say old timer. I don't know, but
Dustin's here.
Yeah. There you go.
it would be cool to hear stuff like that. Some off the wall. There was another one that I heard where this old guy told this other person to put his hunting clothes in the feed sacks.
It works.
Do you do that?
So funny story, real quick. I bought this. I dove off in the ozone stuff, in the off season, and I was like, man, it's very really convincing, that this is the way to go. Well, I started using this bag, and I just got busted like crazy.
Yeah.
I couldn't hunt anywhere. I wasn't seeing any deer. Mm-hmm. At the end of the season, I told Dustin, I said, I've been pouring rice bran out. I'm just going to put my clothes in a rice bran bag. And there was deer coming all around. They never smelled me.
Really?
So it works.
Yes.
Yeah. I used it after he told me.
Absolutely. I'm fixing to,
We're
be
gonna
burying
start-
my stuff in my.
I put everything in rice bran bags. They'd just be lined out in the room.
Yeah.
They get that peanut butter scent.
Yeah. I'm glad. There you go. I'm glad baiting's legal now.
We're just
Would it be
gonna start
something to
storing our
bring Jay, you
clothes in
showed up, you
barrels of it.
baiting? No, sir. Let me see your license. You pull corn out and it just falls out your pocket. I don't know where that came from. No, but I do have one question, and we talked about this and I want y'all's, I guess, point of view on this, but we kind of, I guess you can say, we don't not like the rut. I do like the rut, but at the same time, we get more pictures and have better luck, it seems like, in the early season. And we've come to the conclusion, I guess, me and him talking, and we spoke on the phone the other night just about this situation. I think it was the few last days of season this past year, or this past season. And, in the South, it's so thick in the woods down here. If you're not within like an 80 to a 90, maybe 100-yard range where you can see through the hardwoods, especially if you're bow hunting or rifle hunting. But if you're bow hunting and you're in that thick area like you were talking about earlier, which is usually the best to find a mature buck, if that deer is not chasing a doe somewhere around in that radius that you can see, you're pretty much out of the game. And where we come from is, you watch these guys out west, and they have a rut. And when we say a rut, they have a real rut where the bucks are chasing does, and I'm talking about they are, chasing does. And they can see them because they can see 200 to 300 yards through the hardwoods. So even if they're not killing nothing that day, they're still seeing 20 to 30 bucks, 20 to 30 deer that day, and 4 or 5 mature bucks running them does through the hardwoods. Down here, if you got a deer that's running a doe just per se, if they're not in that little 80-yard radius or 100-yard radius that you can see, you're just pretty much out of the game. What do y'all think about that? I want y'all's POV on that.
You want to go first? You want me to?
I mean, the rut, you don't ever know. I mean, when the buck starts showing up in weird places, I mean, you can't really predict where they're going to chase a doe to. So
Right.
All bets are off.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you put yourself in the best position, hoping you're really hunting does during the rut. Hoping a buck is locked down
Right.
within that doe group vicinity. So
Right.
I mean, where the does are at. So I feel like you can kind of put yourself in the best position, if that makes sense. But
Right.
you're really just getting lucky.
Right.
Yeah.
My point of view is I don't like the rut trying to kill a deer, but I like what the rut brings with it on the scrapes.
Right.
Early season, I'd rather kill a deer early season all day, every day.
Yeah.
But when the scrapes start happening, I do like seeing that activity.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I will be in
Yeah.
that area. I've not seen but one buck actually get chase a doe by a scrape area.
Mm-hmm.
But if you find the right scrape, it's like they're centralized right there,
Right.
waiting on that magical doe to come through.
That's right. And and I told Taylor, I've only seen in South Alabama, I've only seen the rut. I guess you could say like the guys out west see it, a true rut where a deer is running a doe hard, and I mean running her. I've only seen that. We had a lease up in north of Highland Home, and it was all clear cut at the time. We had that lease for about 6 years, I think. So we watched the pines grow, and as the pines, when it was just clear cut, nothing out there, up to where they were about waist high. You could see deer running across there. Well, my favorite thing to do was in the rut, get about 25 foot up a pine tree on the edge of one of them on a hillside where I could see across there. And that's when those 6 years, I really experienced the rut. And when I say the rut,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I saw deer chasing. At one time, we saw 4 rack bucks, shooter bucks. I would say they were probably 400 to 500 yards off. You could see them, but we could see, movement going up a hill on that other side over there. And there was one doe, and there was 4 studs behind that doe, and every one of them was running about 10 yards apart from each other, running that one doe. But down here, and if you're not on a clear cut or a big field where you can see for forever, unless you're just right there in their wheelhouse.
Yeah.
It's hard to see that when you're bow hunting. Or matter of fact, I hadn't seen it since while bow hunting in hardwoods. I'll see them nudging from time to time and come down a trail, and I'll shoot one. I think 2 of the 3 I killed last year were in the rut, but none of them were chasing. They were probably cruising, but they wasn't chasing. So I think it's extremely hard down here in the South where we're at, because our woods are so thick, and you can't see out there at 200-300 yards through the hardwoods like a lot of guys can out west or up north, which kind of, I don't despise the rut. I don't hate the rut or nothing, but I'm like you. I like to watch what the rut brings, but it's hard on me.
See, I
and
felt
Taylor,
like I was in the minority when I brought this up
Right.
to you.
It's
I
hard
told
to
him, I said,
pattern them.
I don't like the rut, and I was almost
Yeah.
scared to say it because I thought everybody loved it, and it's what everybody looks forward to.
I would rather tag out before December,
Yes.
honestly.
Right,
Yes,
right. And
'Cause-
yeah,
especially if you have a certain deer in mind that you're hoping to get.
Oh, yeah.
I
yeah,
mean,
it kind of ruins it.
Yeah.
Which, to my point, Houdini Talon's deer, we got him on October. We got him in October before season come in, we got pictures of him. We knew he was a shooter buck. We was fixing to go after him. Matter of fact, he's the first one we were after this past year or this past season. And October, we got 3 or 4 pictures of him at 12 o'clock in the middle of the day walking through. And then we didn't get a single picture of him until January 1st or 2nd. And Talon killed him on January 17th or January 18th, something like that. But we didn't get a single picture of him all year long until rut come in. So when the rut came in that aspect, it kind of helped us a little bit. But he wasn't chasing when he shot him or nothing like that. But now Kicker, the one I killed him early season, and I pretty much was able to – I knew he was in there.
He was predictable.
Yeah, he was predictable. So it made it easy on me, and we thought that Houdini was going to be the same way, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen like that. But my thing is, when early season, I like to pattern the deer. I've got a shooter buck. I know he's in the area somewhere, but when rut comes in, it's almost like I have no idea where he's at. A lot of the times, matter of fact, my deer just disappear.
I think the rut, this is just my take on it. I think it's getting to the point now, these does are so spread out, they can kind of just, get them as they come in. Right. There's not really much challenge for them. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're still seeing bucks chasing right now, and it just gets later. I mean, if they took the whole month of December out and pushed it to March, I mean, I'd be fine with that, really. But
right.
I just don't think there's as much challenge to get those like maybe it used to be. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Right.
But
yeah.
We got so many does down here, and it's so thick in our woods. I don't think the deer have to travel very far to get a hot doe, or and especially if they know if they're in that area with them and they're in their home range and their core area or whatever. I don't, like I said, I think Talon. Matter of fact, he counted 17 deer, all does in one of our power lines, what we call the power line. He saw 17 deer, and they were all does, and this was about January 15th, when you would think that the rut, well, he had a spike and a 6-point come out. They didn't pay a bit of attention to the does. They walked right by them, and they were still together. So, I mean, but what I started thinking is if there's 17 does there, and then in our top field we got pictures of like 6 does in that same afternoon. If there's 17 does out there in the wide open, there ain't no telling how many's in the woods. Yeah. And if they don't have to travel, if a deer, I'm a stickler for if a mature buck.
Dang it, Homer. God.
If a mature buck don't have to come out in the open, he's not going to. So if he don't have to chase them does out there in the open, he's going to chase them down there where you're not.
Yeah. And from a land manager type standpoint, back when I was younger and I had that 1,000 acres, I had it for 10 years, and like I said, I strategically managed, except for the last 2 years. I got tired of cleaning deer. Like I didn't have anywhere to put them, dude. Like I was shooting 10 to 18 does a year,
right.
And I was just tired of cleaning them and giving them people, blah blah blah. Them last 2 years when I quit doing that, I went from having an average of 15 shooter bucks, just way below 5. I can't remember the exact number, but it was just you couldn't find them again,
Right. Yep.
But if I had been shooting all them does all that time, them bucks would have been moving a whole lot more,
Right. Yep. Absolutely. We've got to kill some this next season. I think we're going to have a heyday. When the next bow season comes in, we're fixing to start killing a lot of does. I hadn't killed a doe. I killed my first doe this year with my rifle for my uncle. Wanted some meat, so I killed him a doe. I don't think I've killed a doe in 4 years.
Oh man,
missing out.
It's all been bucks, but
we like to eat.
Yeah. Luckily, I've been able to kill a buck every year, so I've been able to fill the freezer a little bit. But I just feel like I don't want to fool with them, or don't want to deal with them, or take them to the processor or whatever. So I just hold out for a buck. But this next year we may have a doe day where we have
I'll help you.
A bunch of people come out and just shoot the dog crap out of them.
I don't want to scare you, but I'd kill 10.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same way. That's what my dad said too. He's like, y'all got to kill some deer. When you counting 20-something deer in a power line or a food plot or a field or anything, you got way too many does.
That'd free up a lot of food for your bucks.
Yes. I mean, you can't even pour corn out there, and the next day, matter of fact, we talked about this at one time, which in my opinion was kind of crazy. I shouldn't have done it, but and you may not too. But we put more feed out, trying to get them to. They just sat there, just brought more deer. Or either they just stayed out there longer to eat the rest of it. You know, we couldn't keep it out for more than 2 days. I mean, it'd be over with. It's gone. You know, so which gets expensive, like you said. We were eating crackers and bologna. You know, trying to save up to feed the deer, but.
And speaking of, you know, them eating and taking away from the bucks, that's 2,000 to 3,000 pounds per deer a year.
Really?
Yeah. So imagine all that freed up for you bucks.
Yeah. And which, not to mention, which you said earlier, the bucks actually have to get out and move around to find the does instead of just hanging out in their spot and finding them when they come by. You know? So we got to do something about that.
So you were telling me that you put together a little scrape study.
Yeah.
And you got some charts there. You want to expand on that and tell us about it?
Yeah, so the scrape was active a total of 57 days, and this it was activated December 14th. Now, what I did was compare buck movement, doe movement, daylight, night, because I was curious to exactly what was going to happen. And this is based off just this year, but if I had everything from last year, I guarantee you it'd be the same thing. And we shared cameras, so he knows, obviously, he can vouch for this. But what's interesting to me is the bucks visited 43 times in daylight and 15 times at night out of the total 57 days. And now, the way this sets up, there's a swamp that runs. You got pines behind you, thick bedding area, and this is a maybe 4-foot elevation spot in a holly tree. And to me, it's like a thermal scent type blanket in there. And this one little elevation spot's where they know they need to be at to capture all the scent that's just blanketed in this area, you know. And me and him's pretty tall, like I was saying. If we were any taller, you wouldn't be able to walk through there.
Yeah.
Now, if you hunt it, you only getting maybe a 22-yard shot.
Yeah.
On a trail, and that's it. You're going to see a lot of deer, but you got to be in the right spot if you're going to kill the deer or shoulder shoot one and never find it.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's going to be the buck daylight movement. Again, 43 daylight movement times at that scrape, 15 at night. And the does, interestingly enough, was also 22 daylight visits with 9 nighttime visits. And I want to put this out there that this is not the scrape getting hit every time. This is bypassing at least being in that area. So the important factor to me is, and what I seen last year that kind of promoted me to do this year, is I've got this scrape right here. I'm going to be 40 yards right here, and I seen this buck we called Wolverine twice last year. Not coming to that. That's his scrape. He owns this area. Matter of fact, I think he had 12 visits from the time it was activated, which he activated it up until the end of the season. But I seen him twice, about 65 yards from there. So the important factor is once you find that big scrape, don't hunt where you get that 20-yard shot right there. You want to be able to see it, but just try to picture that deer travel route, that quarter that they're going to take. So this scrape is set up on what I call a T trail. And if you find a trail, just say it's running north and south, well, to me, you got a 50-50 shot right there, right? Well, if you find another trail coming from east or west, teeing off into that, then you just upped your chances another third right there.
Right.
So I try to be in that vicinity, and it can screw you. I shouldn't have said screw. It can mess you up if you don't set up off the tee. You don't want to be right where the trails meet at. You know what I mean? Be off the trails 30, 40 yards or whatever the shot allows in order to shoot that intersection. That's something to keep in mind also.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you pretty much, I get you upping your odds by hunting that tee because you're pretty much hunting 2 trails or 2 travel corridors that's intersecting. So that's pretty good.
The amount of daylight activity that you had there, though, there's a lot of people that don't have that kind of daylight activity on their corn piles.
No.
But they would love to have that.
So my cameras were getting full toward the end of season, and what I wanted to do was compare the buck activity to the feeders, boss buck feeders, not spin feeders, to just this scrape activity. But what I can tell you is this outweighs that by a bunch.
Really?
Yes.
That's
I end
good
up
to know.
deleting the Tacticam, so I had some more room on there, because my
Right.
memory got full, but outweighed it tenfold.
Really.
Yeah.
We I think I'm guilty a lot, and I guess I don't want to speak for you, but me and you both are guilty of having a lot of confidence in a bait pile,
Yeah.
or a food plot, or
It's easy to get lazy and rely on it.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's a fair weather kind of mindset. But yeah, I guess that brings a lot of confidence by having food out there or something for the deer to come to. But I did have a lot of scrapes that I did not hunt this past year. One, because I didn't have a stand put up, but I got my saddle ready and everything for next year. But I think next year I'm going to try, even though we have bait out or whatever we may have, instead of hitting them as much as I did, getting around them scrapes and finding the trails and stuff like that and getting on them. Because I do think that your mature buck is going to be killed off that food plot more times than not,
Yeah.
or off that bait pile more times than not.
And out of curiosity, this is a question for both of y'all, and then I want us to answer this as well. Average, how many bucks do you see a season? Just average.
This past year's the exception. I think we saw a buck about every time we went, but not mature bucks. Are you saying mature bucks?
Yeah,
or are you
yeah.
talking?
Let's say mature bucks.
This year, two. Two is all I saw all year.
I'm thinking. I know where you're going with this. It's nowhere near what y'all are going to tell us. I don't know. Probably 10.
10 mature bucks?
Not mature bucks. Did you say mature bucks?
Yeah, we went with
I'm
mature
sorry.
I
bucks.
was about to say, what happened?
I would say 2.
Yeah.
All right.
10. You're like, what?
I was about to say, that's the first I've heard of this.
Well, let me rewind real quick before we answer this. Now, what's important to note about this too is historical data, like we talked about earlier. Now, some of these are 2-year-old bucks that's come this scrape,
Yeah.
but I've got bucks that have been there both years in a row. So just because that's a 4-point or 6-point, you got to be in the long game.
Yeah.
Know that he's going to be back here and this is his area.
Yeah.
So definitely keep that in mind because I've proved it time and time again with just cameras. I mean, obviously these things are a great tool to use and utilize. So it's definitely helped out a whole lot. On what was it, 3 years ago? How many bucks do you see mature bucks?
20 to 30.
Good night.
Yes, sir.
Really?
Yeah,
And really more of them were on public.
yeah,
Yeah. Just by
Wow.
reading the sign and
Yeah.
hunting like you know how to hunt.
yeah. And that was by December, if I ain't mistaken.
Yeah.
Blew my
Yeah,
mind.
we started hunting the club around January,
Yeah,
which we seen a lot in January too. I think all the ones we had on camera ended up passing
yeah,
past a good 8, which we never seen again.
yeah.
He was a 3-year-old. I passed him up at like 20 yards.
Really?
Golly,
then,
that is crazy.
That's insane.
The last day of season when I saw the big one, I hunted all day and passed. He was at least 5,
Yeah,
but he was all broke up. Passed him about 25 yards.
Yeah.
Man, I thought I had a good season seeing like roughly 10 bucks total,
Yeah.
20 or 30 mature bucks. Golly.
yeah.
That's
Well, hey, if you need a hunting buddy,
Which then
yeah. We got y'all here tonight. This is why. No, I'm just playing.
Which that was a fun year because I didn't put out any cameras that year.
No.
Except for at the lease. I was just, I started finding sign on public and I pretty much hunted that one WMA, but started finding sign and then it started, being the same kind of places. I just literally hunted the same kind of places all over it, and I'd see 3 or 4 bucks every time I went.
Right. It's funny you say that. My dad, I do hunt some sign. I don't get me wrong. I don't always hunt a food plot or a food source, but my dad is more like that kind of hunting. And he does like the cameras for research purposes and just watching to see what you got on your property. But that joker acts like he don't even have a camera out there. I mean, he don't hunt no camera. He don't hunt that. He goes out and does his own thing. He hunts sign, and that's what he hunts. And I was like, man, you got a dang rabbit foot in your pocket. because you always come out and you've seen something you passed up or you killed one or something, you know.
Yeah.
But that's all he focuses on is hunting sign, not food sources, not nothing. Where the deer are is where he goes. And I think that's what y'all are getting into too, is the public land is you go in where the deer are at and you're reading the sign, and that's where they subside. I mean, that's where they live.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're seeing more mature bucks. You're not trying to bring them to you, you're going to them. Which I think I'm gonna start doing the same thing this next, or I'm gonna try to do more of that in the coming years. So, but
Well,
too, a lot of properties that we get, especially me and Taylor, we knock on doors a lot, but sometimes you don't have that opportunity to get out and scout sign. You just have to do the best you can with what you got, which would be, maybe 10 to 15 acres of property that butts up to another 200 or 300 that the farmer beside you, he owns that but won't let you hunt it. So then at that point in time, you do have to bring them to you or find that little crumb that you've got to hunt to kill that deer. And in that situation, I do like to grind it out until I finally kill him. But that's a lot of time wasted too when you got a big piece of property that you ain't got pictures of. If you just read the sign, they're probably there. You just ain't got pictures of them.
I would take the right 15 to 30 acres in the right spot over 500 bad acres.
Right. That's right.
Every time.
Yep.
well, I think we're at a good stopping point, and I want to be able to record another podcast with you later on. I saw your wife calling you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Surprised mine ain't hit me up yet, too.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and end it here. So people can find you on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Y'all have a hard-earned page, right?
Yeah, Dustin King 7 on Instagram and Hard Earned on YouTube.
And Noah _Studstill on Instagram.
Gotcha. All right. Well, y'all be sure to check out their YouTube page and watch some of their videos. They got a lot of stuff to binge on. And make sure you like and subscribe to this podcast as well.
Yeah.
And main thing, share it with a buddy.
Yep.
All right.
Appreciate y'all.
Enjoyed it.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank y'all.